Tensions continue to rise in Asia. Yesterday, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu accused the Chinese Communist Party of using Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's recent trip to Taiwan as a pretext for launching large-scale military drills in preparation for an eventual invasion of the island. The CCP leadership has done little to dispel such fears, leading many to suspect their aim is to continue keeping the region off balance. What are we to make of this? Here with me to talk about it is China expert Gordon Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China and the Great U.S.-China Tech War. You can find him on Twitter at Gordon G. Chang. Gordon, good to see you today.
Good to see you, Joseph, and thank you.
Yeah, a lot of developments even today. The Communist Chinese released a white paper today that said, quote, "Taiwan is part of China. This is an indisputable fact," end quote. What's your reaction to that?
This white paper drops conciliatory language that has been a stock feature of Chinese foreign policy for decades. So, for instance, it does not include a promise not to send the military or administrators to Taiwan should there be unification. So this is really a step up in rhetoric. Obviously, this white paper does not really attract anyone in Taiwan. This is, I think, mainly for a domestic Chinese audience, because clearly people in Taiwan look at the more belligerent language and say, we do not want any part of this.
Taiwan's foreign minister, Joseph Wu, had this to say about China's ultimate intentions. Let's play clip 3.
China's behavior towards Taiwan is merely a pretext. Its ambitions and impact extending far beyond Taiwan. It is thus critical that all freedom-loving countries around the world should work together to explore means to respond to the expansion of authoritarianism.
Gordon Chang, do you agree that Taiwan would be just the beginning of Chinese expansion if they're allowed to take the island?
Oh, obviously. I think that you have right now China pressing India, the Philippines, Japan. There are these increasingly dangerous intercepts in the global airspace. China right now actually has told us they propagate this notion of Tianxia, or all under heaven, that the Chinese ruler is the world's only legitimate emperor. And that also means that the Chinese believe, and this is, a lot of people have thought that they should rule the entire world, but the Chinese since 2018 have been talking about the moon and Mars as sovereign Chinese territory. So this is the most ambitious ruling group in history. And if we don't stop them in Taiwan, we're going to have to stop them much closer to home.
Gordon, how much of the escalated rhetoric that we're seeing from China is related to what we are seeing with the Russian invasion of Ukraine? Do you think there's any connection?
Well, I think that there is, because China saw the calamitous withdrawal from Afghanistan, and they, as Kabul was falling, they were actually issuing propaganda releases about how when they invade Taiwan, not if, but when they invade Taiwan, that the island would fall within hours and that the U.S. would not come to help. And then, of course, after that, they saw the failure of President Biden and the Western powers to stop a far weaker Russia. So the Chinese look at this and say they have an historic opportunity. And this historic opportunity is not going to last very long, because somebody else is probably going to be in the White House in the not too distant future.
Now, Gordon, most of us, we look at the map and we see China is really big. Taiwan is really small. Of course, that's not how military conflicts happen. But is it true that China would take the island in a matter of hours?
No. Might not even take it in a matter of months. May never take it. There's 110 miles of water between the main island of Taiwan and the Chinese mainland. The Chinese would be doing something that no other Chinese regime has ever done, and that is combined land and sea operations. People's Republic hasn't done it. No other Chinese ruling group has done that. I think that this is going to be very difficult for them. We saw what the heroic resistance in Ukraine, but Taiwan is much more defendable than Ukraine is.
Gordon, what should the United States' position be in this conflict?
We should tell China publicly and in private, that the United States will defend Taiwan, that we will offer Taipei a mutual defense treaty if they want it. We should pre-position munitions and supplies on the island. We should put American troops on Taiwan. We do that, we avoid war, if we're clear. If we don't do that, we could have the worst possible outcomes.
And to that point, do you really believe China wants war, is willing to bear the cost of war? Or are they just hoping to bully people so that they can take Taiwan without much cost?
That's a great question, Joseph. I think that they want to bully, but they're doing things that can cause a war. So with these dangerous air intercepts, they almost brought down an Australian plane on May 26. And they were doing something that no other military has ever done in history. They fired flares and chaff at the Australian plane. Some of that chaff, which is meant to confuse radar, it's aluminum foil, actually was ingested into one of the two engines of the Australian P-8 reconnaissance craft, almost brought it down. You know, those types of things cause wars. You could say, well, China doesn't want war, but they're doing things that could inevitably lead to conflict.
And that begs the question, are they willing to take that risk? It seems right now they are. I think everyone wants to avoid war. They care about money, and of course it would be very costly for the Chinese economy to do that. But we've seen with respect to Russia that autocrats don't necessarily care about the short-term loss of money, and sometimes they have other objectives. But Gordon Chang, thank you for this important and quick update today.
Thank you, Joseph.